Welcome back to Billionaire Success Lessons. Today, we are telling the story of a man who did not build his fortune by chasing fashion, technology hype, or celebrity attention. He built it through grit, industry, patience, and an extraordinary ability to see opportunity in places that looked too hard, too dirty, or too ordinary for most people to respect. This is the story of Liu Yongxing. And what makes his journey so powerful is not only that he became a billionaire, it is that he built his success through some of the hardest and least glamorous kinds of business you can imagine. Feed, agriculture, heavy industry, aluminum, energy, real assets, real production, real risks. This is not the kind of success story built on illusion. It is the kind built on years of work that the outside world rarely sees until the results become too large to ignore. Liu Yongxing's life began far away from luxury. Public profiles say he was born in rural Sichuan in 1948 and came from a farming background. He did not begin with wealth, elite, networks, or a ready-made empire. He began in a world where survival, discipline, and practical skill mattered far more than image. That matters because a lot of people think billionaires begin differently. They imagine privilege. They imagine a perfect head start. They imagine a straight line from talent to fortune. But stories like Liu Yongxing's remind us that real power often rises from places the world underestimates. That is where the first lesson begins. Success does not always start where life looks impressive. Sometimes it starts where life looks difficult. And difficult places teach difficult strengths. They teach restraint. They teach patience. They teach respect for work. They teach you that if you want something real, you may have to build it from almost nothing. Bloomberg says Liu graduated from Chengdu Teachers College in 1980, but his life did not stay inside the safe boundaries of a conventional path. Instead, he and his brothers moved toward entrepreneurship at a time when private business in China was still far from easy or glamorous. Forbes says that in 1982, with only about $120 in savings, the brothers started raising quail and chickens, laying the foundation for what became Hope Group. Pause there for a moment. That is one of the most powerful parts of this entire story. Not millions of dollars. Not venture capital. Not a giant inheritance. Not a family corporation waiting to be expanded. Just for brothers. A tiny amount of money. And the willingness to begin. That is the kind of beginning many people dismiss because it looks too small. But greatness often hides inside small beginnings. What matters is not how impressive the first step looks. What matters is whether the people taking that step are willing to keep going long enough for the step to compound. And Liu Yongxing kept going. This is another lesson his life teaches. The world respects finished empires, but finished empires are built from unfinished days. Days when nothing looks certain. Days when the business is fragile. Days when every mistake feels expensive. Days when the work is repetitive and the outcome is still invisible. Those are the days that create the future. The early hope business was rooted in agriculture and animal feed. That may not sound glamorous, but it was deeply important. Food systems, feed systems, farming systems, these are not side notes in an economy. They are foundations. People may admire software more loudly, but societies still depend on food, production, logistics, and industrial materials to survive. That is one of the reasons Liu Yongxing's story carries such weight. He was not building on fantasy. He was building on necessity. And necessity is where some of the strongest fortunes in history are born. Because if you can solve a real need at scale, you are no longer just running a business. You are becoming part of the structure that other businesses and whole communities depend on. The Hope Group grew large enough that by the mid-1990s, the brothers split it into separate companies. And Bloomberg plus Forbes profiles say Liu Yongxing formed East Hope in 1995 after that separation. Bloomberg's profile also indicates that he later moved East Hope's headquarters to Shanghai in 1999. Now, that moment is important because a lot of people can help build something together. Far fewer can take their share, shape it with their own vision, and turn it into something even larger. That requires more than ambition. It requires judgment. You have to know what to keep. You have to know what to change. You have to know where the future is moving. And you have to be willing to leave the comfort of what already works in order to build what might work even. But Liu Yongxing did exactly that. He did not simply hold on to the past. He used it as a launch point. This is where his story becomes especially interesting, because East Hope did not remain only an agriculture business. Forbes says its interests came to include heavy industry, agriculture, and real estate. East Hope's official website shows the group operating across agriculture, chemicals, energy, and property, and identifies it as one of the world's top 10 producers of electrolytic aluminum and aluminum, while also saying it has more than 100 feed subsidiaries. That is not a small shift. That is a transformation from one line of business into a diversified industrial empire. And this is where another major lesson appears. A builder's life changes when he stops thinking only about one product and starts thinking in systems. Liu Yongxing did not stay trapped inside one category. He moved from agriculture into larger industrial chains. He understood something many people never learn if you want to become truly formidable. You cannot think only in transaction. You have to think in infrastructures. Feed is infrastructure. Energy is infrastructure. Aluminum is infrastructure. Industrial materials are infrastructure. Property and industrial sites are infrastructure. And the people who master infrastructure often become much more powerful than the crowd expects. Because infrastructure is less glamorous than consumer fame, but often more durable than it. That is what makes this story so meaningful. A lot of people chase what looks exciting. Liu Yongxing kept building what was essential. And essential things are hard. They require capital. They require patience. They require tolerance for long time. They require resilience through cycles that can make weaker people panic. When you enter heavy industry, you enter a world where mistakes are expensive, projects are massive. Environmental demands are serious, and returns do not always come quickly. It is one thing to build a small business. It is another thing to build a large industrial group with major exposure to manufacturing and materials. That kind of work reshapes a person. It forces seriousness. It punishes sloppiness. It teaches scale. It teaches consequence. Liu Yongxing seems to have embraced that path fully. That is why his story is not just about making money. It is about building weight. A light business can disappear. A heavy business changes landscapes. Think about what it means to build across feed, chemicals, energy, and aluminum. You are no longer just selling products. You are organizing labor, plant, equipment, industrial chains, and long-term capital. You are making decisions that affect thousands of people, entire regions, and major supply networks. That is a different level of entrepreneurship, and it comes with a different kind of loneliness too. Because when the scale gets large enough, the founder can no longer rely only on instinct. He needs process. He needs structure. He needs systems that can carry complexity without collapsing under it. That is one of the hardest transitions in business. A small company can survive on hustle. A large one must survive on design. And Liu Yongxing appears to have made that transition. That is why his success feels substantial, not trendy success, not fashionable success, substantial success. The kind built from decades of patience, expansion rather than one explosive moment. There is also something deeply human in the way this story unfolds. He did not begin in comfort. He did not rise in a glamorous sector. He did not build the kind of business that instantly makes the world applaud. Instead, he kept working in industries where applause comes late, if it comes at all. And that is something many people need to hear. Because some of the strongest lives are built in silence. Built when nobody is praising you. Built when the work feels repetitive. Built when your industry is considered boring by outsiders. Built when your value is real, but not yet visible. That is how compounding works. And compounding is one of the deepest themes in Liu Yongxing's story. Knowledge compounds. Factories compound. Relationships compound. Discipline compounds. Industrial capacity compounds. Good judgment compounds. At first it all looks slow. Then one day it looks enormous. That is how a tiny farm venture with brothers becomes a giant industrial group. This is why his life belongs on Billionaire Success Lessons. Because it reminds us that not every giant life is built in public excitement. Some are built in practical seriousness. Some are built in businesses that smell like dust, feed, heat, metal, and effort. Some are built by people who understand that long-term strength matters more than short-term admiration. And that is a lesson worth respecting. Many people want a path that feels exciting every day. But the truth is, a lot of greatness is boring in the middle. The middle is repetition. The middle is pressure. The middle is operations. The middle is carrying responsibility, when the reward still feels far away. Most people can survive the beginning, because beginnings are emotional. Most people love the ending because endings are visible. But the middle is where the real test happens. And Liu Yongxing survived the middle. He kept building through sectors where the stakes were high and the timelines were long. He kept moving deeper into industries where competence mattered more than image. He kept shaping East Hope into something larger than a single lucky business cycle. That is why his story carries so much weight. It tells us that you do not need to build in a fashionable category to build a remarkable life. You do not need outside approval in the early years. You do not need a dramatic identity. You need discipline, vision, patience, and the willingness to stay where the real work is hard. That is enough. And sometimes it is more than enough. There is another powerful lesson here, too. Do not confuse what is visible with what is valuable. The market often notices glamour to see companies first, but the real economy is held together by quieter forces. Food, materials, energy, transport, industrial systems. Liu Yongxing built inside those forces. That is why his empire feels grounded. Because it was never built on fantasy alone. It was built on things that nations actually need. That makes his success not only impressive, but consequential. And consequential success is often the kind that lasts. For anyone listening right now who feels discouraged because your work seems too ordinary, Liu Yongxing's life offers a powerful reminder. Ordinary work done at extraordinary depth can become extraordinary success. A small beginning does not limit a giant future. A hard industry does not limit a meaningful life. A slow start does not cancel massive scale later. And a practical mind may be worth far more than a dramatic one. That is why stories like this matter. They'll return us to reality. They remind us that empires do not always begin in brilliant ideas alone. Sometimes they begin in difficult necessities, in work others avoid, in sectors others underestimate, in burdens others are too impatient to carry. Liu Yongxing carried those burdens, and by carrying them long enough, he turned them into power. So when you think about Liu, do not just think about billionaire rankings or corporate size. Think about the rural boy from Sichuan. Think about the graduate who stepped into life without a ready-made empire. Think about the brother who started with a tiny amount of money in 1982. Think about the man who helped build Hope Group and then built East Hope from the 1995 split. Think about the discipline it took to expand from feed and agriculture into heavy industry and aluminum. Think about the seriousness required to move from small enterprise to industrial structure. Think about the patience required to keep building while much of the world paid more attention to louder stories. Think about the chairman whose company official site now presents it as active across agriculture, chemicals, energy and property, and as one of the world's top 10 producers of electrolytic aluminum and aluminum. That is the story of Liu Yongxing. Not just a story of billions. A story of patience. A story of necessity. A story of industrial ambition. A story of building strength where others saw ordinary work. And a story of proving that some of the most powerful people in the world are the ones willing to master the hard things that everybody else depends on.